Growing up, I never saw myself as an athletic person. As soon as there was like a sense of needing to perform, like if I was in front of people, I would tense up and I could never perform under that pressure. And so even just in simple one-on-one games, like playing ping pong, I would often like win the early points and then I would start to choke. I would just get really nervous the closer I got to being able to win. And then my opponent would end up catching up and then beating me. When I was in high school, I was on the football team and we were just warming up, but just kind of playing around kicking the football. And I was kicking it farther and straighter than anybody else on the team. And so the coach saw this and said, all right, Forrest, you're our kicker. You're our official kicker for the team. But then all of a sudden, now I felt the pressure. I felt that anxiety, that performance anxiety, and I couldn't kick the ball straight. I couldn't kick it far. Before the end of the first practice, the coach rescinded that title and gave it to somebody else. Over time, I started to realize that trend in myself, that it wasn't that I wasn't athletic, it was that I would become what I call an anxious overthinker. My mind would just start to race and I would tense up and get anxious. The way that I see it in my students is sometimes this feeling of pressure that they seem to have to get something right away. And so they'll speed through techniques instead of taking the time to slow down and feel the movement. An example is I was teaching somebody how to throw a triple jab on the bag and the ability to hit a jab cross and then triple jab out. And there's a coordination of the feet and the hands so that you're going into the bag as you punch. And when you go fast, it's hard to find the timing. And so you end up kind of punching out of sync with your feet. And so you don't really get that sort of like spring-like effect on those jabs. And he would rush through it. And so his punches were more just, you know, it was like his body was curving around the bag, but his punch was going in and out. But he wasn't using the power of his body in those jabs as he curved, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, it's not a big deal. Basically, if he were to slow it down, he could get that coordination. If you find yourself tending to like maybe overthink things and get anxious, not only do a lot of people feel this way, but this is a great avenue into the self-growth that you can gain through martial arts. This offers you the opportunity to change the way that you interact with learning and your own self-identity. I think a lot of us were trained to attach our own self-worth to our performance. Like in school, you got an A if you were smart. If you got a D, it meant that there was something wrong with you. And so you were being judged against other people, against your peers, and your self-identity becomes a lot of like, how do you fit? How do you learn in comparison to everybody else? And then I compare that to, I have a 4-year-old son, Ronan, and I watch him and he loves learning. He doesn't see learning any different than he sees play. He's always trying to understand his world. He's exploring, he's trying to put things together. And most importantly, his self-worth and self-identity is not tied up in how fast he picks something up. So in that way, martial arts can be a vehicle of self-growth for changing the way that you relate to learning, and that it has nothing to do with your identity as a person, that you are neither good or bad based on how quickly you pick a technique up. And so the thing that I wanted to do in this video is to invite you to practice what I call relaxed intent. The idea of relaxed intent is that, yes, you want to get better, your intention is to get better, but your identity is not tied to the struggle. You're allowed to mess up, you're allowed to feel awkward, you're allowed to slow down and actually feel what it is that you're doing. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So start by just slowing down and just trying to smooth everything out. And then you'll find that you'll actually start to learn things faster as a result. So you're going slow in order to go fast. Bruce Lee called Jeet Kune, which fits in martial arts as a whole, is a circle with no circumference. Basically, the more you learn, the bigger the pie gets. So in that sense, you never really get any closer to having mastered martial arts anyway. So there's no rush. You can take your time and just enjoy the journey. Enjoy the process. Make martial arts a practice of learning to let go and practice relaxed intent.
The consciousness of self is the greatest hindrance to the proper execution of all physical action. Art reaches its greatest peak when devoid of self-consciousness. Freedom discovers man the moment he loses concern over what impression he is making or about to make.